So here we have Rebecca Helps, and she's running for the Green Party of Canada on the by-election of New Westminster-Coquitlam. And Rebecca is going to tell us, she's in nowpolling.ca, and she's going to tell us which is the most important topic to her.
Well, I think the most important topic for me is combating climate change. And one of the ways we can do this is by introducing a carbon tax. But I think first we need to understand that climate change it's partly environmental, but really it's a security issue.
What do you mean security?
Well, as we run out of resources, as we have less fresh water and our water supply diminishes, as we have less resources, both natural gases, minerals, trees, forests, there's going to be a fight for resources. And Canada, and BC particularly, as a very resource-rich region, I think will be underneath threat from the U.S. There's already talks of the U.S. wanting to mass export our water.
Should we share all those resources with the rest of the world?
No, I totally believe we need to share our resources, but we need to do it in a conservative way.
So you have gone to the nowpolling.ca,
yeah,
and you have looked at the federal polls,
yes,
and you've gone to the environment topics. And,
yes.
and what's the name of the topic that you...
National Environmental Regulations.
Regulations. And you have added one topic there. And can you read what it is?
Sure.
Your choice?
Introduce a carbon tax that is revenue neutral. And I meant to say reduce taxes from wages and income. Instead of I accidentally typed remove taxes from wages and income, which would be nice, but I think we're better off reducing. So any carbon tax needs to be revenue neutral.
Okay. Does the tax have to be neutral, or can you just focus on taxing polluters?
The tax doesn't have to be neutral, or rather all taxes don't have to be neutral, but I think we need to shift our economy off of taxing the things that we want to taxing what's bad, and that initial shift needs to be revenue neutral. Once we clean up kind of how we tax and how we distribute the money so that it's streamlined and makes sense, then we can look and see if we need more taxes. But I personally think that between the revenue sources that we can look at, by reducing the wages and the income and taxing more carbon, that there can be enough money there for our government to operate. Then if we need to consider other taxes, we can do that. But until we know, how our taxes are being collected and how they're being spent to our benefit, to the common good, I don't think we should be taxing more Canadians. I think there's a lot of areas where we can clean up, including shifting the oil and gas subsidies, which is our tax dollars, and using that to fund things that help combat climate change.
Your second most important issue is electoral reform.
Yes.
And you're looking at one topic which says what?
It says make a system where votes count fairly for all of us, not just a numbers game.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Well, to me this means proportional representation.
But do you think that the person that put that was also thinking of proportional representation, or something could have been something else?
Well, it could have been something else.
Because it doesn't. Does it specifically say make proportional representation, or it says make the system?
No, it makes votes count fairly.
Votes count fairly, yeah.
And right now,
many ways.
There's many ways. But there's many forms of proportional representation. BC had the experience of having a referendum on STV, which is one style. A more common style is MPP, mixed member proportional representation. And with proportional representation, it does make it so that the vote counting is more fair. In the last federal election, the Green Party got, I think, approximately 1 million votes, and the Bloc got 1.3 million votes. They ended up with, I think, 44 seats, and the Green Party ended up with 0 seats. So underneath our current system, it's not fair. The votes aren't counting.
It's not fair to parties.
It's not fair, but it's also not fair to the voters, because that means 1 million Canadians are not represented in Parliament.
True. But it affects the party specifically, because you're saying it's the Green Party with all the support that don't get the proportion, the party's proportion of what should be in Parliament.
But it's not the parties, it's the voters are not being represented.
Have you just changing topics here?
Yeah.
Have you thought of Canada being at war today?
With Afghanistan? Or?
Yes. Would that be one of your top priorities?
It would be. I think with Afghanistan, we need to get out of our relationship with NATO in that region. It's an aggressive force, and I don't believe that Canada is best suited to this type of strategy. I believe that we would better serve Afghanistan and the region, Afghanistan and the Afghan people as a peacekeeping and peacemaking force, and working first with diplomacy.
Let's go back to the electoral reform just for a minute.
I wouldn't support, this perpetual of, just when you start doing bad that you get recalled. I think we do need, like election dates, and ideally fixed election dates, which Harper had promised, and then he broke his own promise, but into recall. But I do think we need recall, because I think the MP's number one responsibility is to represent their constituents. So I would support recall, because often, as an MP, I think you need to evaluate a lot of different aspects of an issue. And what you're elected to do is to look at all this different information on an issue, all these different sides. You need to work with, the experts that come forward and give testimony on an issue, because we can't all be experts on every subject. Weigh it and then use your best judgment. I think that's what you're being elected for, is to use your judgment to represent your riding, and then vote. So if I start voting as an MP in a way that my constituents strongly feel opposed to, it may be that based on what I know, it's in their best interest, but if I haven't communicated to them the complexity of the issue and why I'm voting yes or no, when on the surface they think I should be voting the other way, then I need to be doing a better job of communicating with them and sharing my information.
Could it be that you're wrong?
I could be wrong.
Right, so shouldn't the will of the people prevail?
But as the MP, I think it's my job to also make sure that they're informed, because the MP will have access to much more knowledge, right? And will be part of Parliament committees, and we'll hear testimony from experts, and we'll read through lots and lots of information.
Which you could be putting on the computer, and people could be learning. Yes,
exactly. I need to be communicating it with my constituents.
And what's the top one says?
No term of office. Voters' right to recall MP with a computerized perpetual electoral system.
Not your choice. You wouldn't like to be recalled, or have no term. You want term of office.
I want term of office, but I don't think we can rely 100% on computerized. For one thing, is I think it would exclude part of the population. Not everyone is computer literate. Not everyone has access to computers. And we have a hard enough time as it is educating people about the electoral system and when to vote. We have a very low civic literacy in Canada. And maybe in the future, when we have a much higher civic literacy rate, then we could move to something like that. And I wouldn't want to consider this until there was some really good way to identify the voter. Whether there was some type of facial recognition software when you logged into the system.
The bank keep your money, and you have a password and an ID, and you keep your money there, and you trust it. You trust the banks. Can you trust in the same way the governments?
Again, down the line, I could see this working, but I don't think with our current demographics, the fact that some people are still not computer literate, that we have this low civic literacy rate, that is a solution for this time.